Welcome to Nashville.con, as in con artist, where things aren't always as they seem. Today we're going to learn about public image versus true identity. We're going to learn about the egomaniac versus yes people. We're going to learn about narcissists versus codependence, something everybody needs to know about if you're in a relationship. Because who you are on stage or in the public eye is called a performance. I am Heidi Jo Guthrie, and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee when I was about 22, 23. I started touring with major country artists after getting a degree, but getting a music scholarship to Portland State University, where I found I didn't want to be a music teacher, I wanted to be a performer. And after 3 years at Portland State University, I was convinced by a club owner to come to Nashville. And I've learned more than the music industry in Nashville. I've really learned about personality types, in particular, the narcissist and the codependent, the egomaniac versus the yes people and people pleasers. And they are different than who you might think. In some scenarios, they can be the egomaniac star who's worshipped by all the fans, who thinks that they want the perfect catering backstage and you must have my drink and the right thing. You know, we think about the diva or the ladies' man who thinks they're God's gift to earth. But it's not always the star. I've known a lot of stars that were very kind and sweet codependents that really looked to the band. How'd I sing? Did I do okay? So it's not always who you think. We know the typical overt narcissist who drives up in their fancy car and thinks they're God's gift to women. Or let's say this is a very good telling factor when you're trying to find out if somebody has a narcissistic egomaniac personality, is see how they treat service people. When you go to waiters and waitress, do they, I've seen people I won't mention actually whistle, always complaining. What are you doing? Getting mad at people, expecting to be waited on with perfection. That's a big giveaway. Let's go to a restaurant. I always think people need to wait tables before they ever eat at a restaurant so they learn to appreciate service people. I've waited a lot of tables in the music industry in between gigs, so it's a really helpful thing. You know, the music industry and the entertainment industry takes its toll on a marriage. I've been both the wife who took the male musician to the tour bus where they had beer and they told dirty jokes and they watched risque movies and, did whatever, laughed and got to act like they were in junior high again and get away from the wife and picking up their socks. I've been that wife who left the husband there, but I've also been the musician on the bus, living with the guys on the bus. So I got a lot of juicy stories, a lot of information that's going to be really helpful, both to the male musicians and standing up for them and to their wives to let them know what it's really like. We're going to interview people besides me that are in the music industry, songwriters, people that write music about painful experiences and can tell you how they coped with pain and coped with life. Something I need as well because I don't have it all together. We can show our Facebook pictures and we can have our lip gloss and our hair done just right. Hope you like my hair today. But I'm thankful for glasses because it doesn't show the bags under my eyes from crying all night. We're going to get real on this show and I'm going to get real. Did a lot of crying last night. So this is a show to help me and help you and help us grow and learn together. Let's talk about the egomaniac or the narcissist or the celebrity. When it talks about a relationship, they gotta dull your shine so that they can feel bigger. I remember, a lot of times when you're talking about a diva, you're talking about a male star who thinks he's God's gift or is flawless. There's a story about Sinatra. When he was recording, they'd say, the engineer said, "Mr. Sinatra, you need to do that again, you were flat." And he said, "Excuse me? Mr. Sinatra, you were flat." Excuse me? Finally, they got it and said, "Mr. Sinatra, the band was sharp. Excuse me. The band was sharp. Would you please do it again?" And he said, "Okay, fine." But he could not be wrong. That's typical narcissist. When you're in relationships and someone can't ever be at fault, it's a no-win thing. Love has to be on equal ground. Love must be on equal ground. And I will tell you, I've been in my share of relationships. Was I perfect? No, not at all. None of us are. We can talk about our imperfections, and I'll talk about mine. One of my imperfections, I'll tell you, I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress, CPTSD, from emotional and mental abuse. Being the only female on a tour bus with men, I've been womanized, by not only fans and people hollering things off stage, but by also the artist and the band members. Some really painful, traumatic things I went through. My father used to say, you want to marry a doctor, hang out at a hospital. Well, I didn't want to hang out at a hospital. I didn't want to hang out with doctors. I hung out with musicians. So I ended up marrying musicians. In Nashville, I married 2 different musicians. And as a musician myself, the first marriage here was, the first date was on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. And that was interesting because we met both performing, but very quickly in the good old boy South, and I love certain things about the South, and there's things I don't like so well about it. I'd miss everybody dearly if I left because I love the hospitality, but there's some things that are still a little backwoods, and one of those things is probably the misconception in the Bible Belt about submission. I grew up on a farm where I learned about submission from the animals. You have bucks and does. The buck is the one who defends you and lays their life down for you. The rooster who fights off the predators and protects the hen. The hen will kind of squat down and submit to his love. So in my opinion, I believe, even in my own worldview, that the biblical submission that I think Christ meant, and this is not a show about religion. I have Buddhist friends, Hindu friends, and atheist friends, and we're going to share all different tips from everybody's views that we can do. But in my particular worldview, the notion of submission is somebody willing to lay their life down and fight for you and want your best. I have no problem, like a hen or a doe or anybody else, submitting to their love if I know they're going to lay their life down for me. There's a real backwoods way of talking about submission, that somehow women in the South should be under men's feet instead of by their side. And certainly in the music industry, I learned really quick, although we were on equal ground and we were both good musicians, he was the breadwinner. Don't you forget it. The Bible says that I'm the head of the house and I'm the breadwinner. And, we were both starving artists, let's be honest. And I'd say, go win some bread then. But clearly, I had to be dulled so the male could shine more, especially in the Bible Belt church. Wonderful people. There are wonderful things that churches do, yes. But, you also have to remember, in the story of the scriptures, the Pharisees and the church people were the one who demanded his crucifixion. So they don't always have it together. So all that to say is I've endured sexism, extreme racism, and I've grown and learned. Been beat up? Oh yeah. But I've learned, and this is why I wanted to do a program like Nashville.con, so that we can learn how to cope with pain, personality disorders, and stand our ground and set our boundaries, where we learn the red flags of an egomaniac and how to say no, something I'm still learning. I'm hoping to have people on here who got that down better than me that I can learn from. Let's talk about dulling someone else to feel larger than life. I have to make you smaller so I can feel bigger. To me, that's a very weak man or woman. This is not a male bashing show. I'm going to have wonderful men on here who I feel were codependent type men who lived to worship and make the woman happy. And they were beat up just like a lot of women were, just like I was. So this is not about all men are bad and narcissists and all women are codependent. You get some of the worst narcissists, in my opinion, in women. They're more rare, granted, majority of narcissists are men, but the women who are can be very deceptive, especially in the church, in the name of Jesus. Let's put it that way. So I want to talk about quickly my story. Sometimes when life isn't fair and there's nothing you can do, I heard a good sermon by a preacher, and I won't mention him because I don't want to get into politics or religion if you like or dislike the person. I happen to like the sermon. Talked about having to become small so somebody else can feel big. Having to be put down so somebody can feel that they shine more. I know a lot of artists that I can say, man, I can make your song sound, I'm the back. That's one thing I'm confident of. I know I'm the backup singer that can make anybody's put sauce on their stuff. I can make them sound good. That's kind of my forte. But an artist that can stand alone, I've known a lot of those singers. They don't need any backup vocals at all. And sometimes those people can be the kindest people. Sometimes the job of a band is to make that person look good. And if we don't, we're going to catch holy hell. I've been in those situations, but that happens in a relationship. I went from singing music, confident to get up in front, the scariest thing, get up in front of thousands of people and sing and speak and talk. I know how to do that, but you put me in a relationship and I'm scared as all get out that that person's not going to love me, and that I'm not going to measure up. I'm not going to cook enough dinner, clean the house good enough. I'm not going to be pretty enough. The insecurities within myself I've had to go through a lot of therapy with. You can have somebody on stage that performs great, and then you get them behind closed doors and they're scared. A lot of times these come from dynamics we learned in childhood, that they never quite could measure up and be a good enough little girl or perform well enough. We call that performance-based raising. And a lot of musicians grow up where, what did you accomplish today? And when you perform well, it's yay. When you don't perform well, I don't want to talk to you. So those are things that we can talk about. Where I'm at now that I think is really helpful to share, there's a lot of people in pain. First definition of humility is realizing you don't have it any worse than anyone else. You may feel you're in hell, but somebody else is too. And so although I feel I'm in hell, I realize I don't have it worse. There's people with it worse and people with it better, but we'll all get our share and have our cross to bear. Right now I'm in hell. I will tell you that I've been in a very abusive relationship. I found the overt narcissist, that is the womanizer, the cheater, the whatever, they're the least dangerous. Actually the guy that is physically abusive is sometimes the least dangerous. The one who's the wolf in sheep's clothing, the wolf in sheep's clothing who appears as an angel of light or a saint, that what we call loves bombs you, says everything they can sense you want to hear, is everything you always desired, spiritually, mentally, physically, and rolls out the red carpet for you. That's your greatest danger, the biggest psychopath. And we're going to cover that because I want people to know about this. Those people can be pastors, politicians, psychologists, psychiatrists that there's some that get into it because they want to help people. There's some that get into it because they want to play God with your head or your life. Tell me how to live. Pastor, how am I supposed to be? Tell me who I am. And that can be a lot of fun with somebody who wants a lot of power. People who are on stage with an instrument and people worship can have a lot of power over people. Fans that worship them. Humans were never meant to be treated like God. When they are, they can be very, very dangerous human beings. As my wrapping it up to my wonderful cameraman and amazing talent, Darren, who you're going to hear from, wonderful singer who has a story to tell of his own, a tremendous musician, guitar player, singer that I can't wait for you to hear his story and his songs, and the male take of what I'm talking about. But when it comes to if you've been hurt, dominated, your needs haven't been met, and everyone thinks that your spouse is so perfect and they don't know who they are behind closed doors, I want you to know, I know, and you're not alone. Here is the deal. Being hurt, used, and abused and bruised, I want you to know it's not okay with me. And I believe you. I hear you. You have a voice, so use it. Write me at Nashville.con at gmail.com. Nashville.con with an N at gmail.com. I want to hear your stories of who your partner is when nobody's looking, what you've had to go through, and the coping tools that helped you get through it so that I can have you on the program and you can tell your stories and maybe sing your song. Thank you for joining. Please share and join us for the next episode. If you like this, please like it on YouTube and subscribe to our page. Thank you.